Naomi, thanks so much for being with us today. Could you just tell us about Billie-Jo? Because it's one of the cases that I had looked myself to cover, but you've done it so brilliantly. So frankly, I'm not asking you about the case. Just tell us a bit about Billie-Jo, first of all. She is the most important person here.
She is, and she was such a vibrant girl, and she was a fostered child. So she'd grown up in London, and she was absolutely beautiful. She's striking. She was very theatrical. I On the beginning of my podcast, I play her sort of this little clip of her sort of performing for the camera. She's acting and doing a bit of singing, and I honestly think if she was still alive today, we'd probably all know her name. And that name, Billie-Jo Jenkins, I mean, that's a star's name. That
Mm.
is, and it's so sad that we know that name for something other than her talent, because what happened to her then was horrific. But she was a foster child. She had a difficult upbringing, and her brother were both separated and put into different foster families. Now, very strangely, her real name was Billie-Jo Jenkins. That was her birth name, and she was then fostered by another family who also just happened to have the surname Jenkins. And she was fostered by Lois and Sion Jenkins. Now, they already had four daughters of their own. Sion was a teacher in a school, and his daughters, his biological daughters, went to the same school as Billie-Jo. And Lois, the mother, was a social worker. And when she found out that Billie-Jo was looking for a foster family, they put themselves forward. And they then, you know, if you are going to be fostered, you know, to come into a family where you've got four sisters waiting for you was quite exciting. And a couple of them were around her age as well. They then decided that they were going to move to Sussex because they were in London at the time. And it was the first time Billie-Jo had ever been to the seaside, you know. So to go from having this inner city life where she had had a troubled upbringing and then putting her over to the coast, it seemed idyllic. But unfortunately, it was the worst thing that could have happened to her.
I mean, you wouldn't think that at first, though, would you? Because describe the backdrop. Hastings is
Yeah,
nice, and
yeah,
is an affluent family in a lovely street. Just paint
yes.
that picture
Oh,
for us.
yes. That had the house that they moved into. So I've been there, and it is grand. I mean, by today's standard, it's worth well over 1 million. It's on Lower Park Road, so there's a lovely park in the middle which has a beautiful playground and a cafe, and there are people doing exercise classes there and dog walking, and it feels very safe. And around this park are these beautiful, beautiful grand houses. Now, I think it was about 3 or 4 stories. It's very tall. It's got a very steep set of stairs that go up to it. And when you look at these houses, they don't scream, and this will become important later, they don't scream the perfect target for a burglar or for an intruder, because it's not easily accessible, and there are houses either side in quite close proximity. So whilst it was grand, it for me and for others that I know who lived in the street, who I spoke to, it felt like a very safe area. There was one problem. There was talk of prowlers in the area. And I think where you get big parks, people do gravitate towards those. There was quite a big homeless community, and unfortunately, there still is in Hastings. And lots of the homeless community would find shelter under some of the undergrowth, which was opposite Billie-Jo's house. So that was people had reported that they'd been looking in their windows and stuff. But aside from that, it was a very safe area.
And you would think as well. So here she is. She's been fostered. She's got Lois the mum, four sisters. And we need to talk about the dad, Sean, as well, because he looks like a pillar of the community, doesn't he? He's a good looking man, well
Yeah,
paid job, deputy
yeah,
headmaster, soon to be headmaster.
yeah.
Describe what he's like.
So he was, and he was very charismatic, and you can see that through the many, many, many interviews that he has done. He's very tall. He is handsome. He is somebody that, you know, if you didn't know his backstory, as you say, he's a very authoritative figure. You would think, wow, you're a foster parent, you are a deputy head teacher, you have this wonderful family, you have these four girls who were all such lovely girls as well. Everyone used to say how wonderful the family was. Lois was a social worker, so his wife was doing something amazing with her career as well. On paper, they were everything that you would ever want for a foster family. But as we know, doing true crime, and as we know as human beings, many wolves disguise themselves in sheep's clothing.